Dan, I know we wanted to talk a little bit about mindset shift. When a founder first starts their company, they have a big vision, they need to grow this thing. Spending is not a bad thing, but when they're in this situation, they have to have a completely different mindset. You want to talk a little bit about that?
First of all, you're not going to spend your way out of it. As Mitchell went through and this segment there, you're going to have to cut costs. And that's the hard part. But it's what you have to do. There are plenty of startup companies that tried to spend their way out of it. They were afraid of the image if they cut costs. I think most customers, everybody else, they actually appreciate somebody that has the courage to cut their costs, keep the doors open. Especially if you look at it from a customer standpoint. A customer buying your product, they don't want you to go away. And nobody really thinks about the customer in these situations. They're always worried about the investor because the investor is going to put money in. But again, as I said before, whenever you raise money, you have to have customers that are going to give you a reference. So if you're making tough decisions, don't worry about the image. Oh, we have to cut costs. We must be a bad company. No, you're being a smart company. You're doing what you can. By cutting costs, yeah, you may be cutting some people, may get pay cuts, but there's also another group of people that hopefully are able to keep their job. And you're able to turn around and grow the company. So you can't always look at the negative. You got to look at the positive side. Hey, if I've got 30 people and I'm going to get rid of 10. I'm saving the jobs of 20 people, not cutting the jobs of 10 people. So you got to turn the image around a little bit and think about what you're doing from both sides. It's hard, but it's what you have to do.
What will define success in the various terms, in these different, the red, orange, yellow zones, and it changes. And once you get through one, you can then aim higher again. Sometimes you have to just focus on survival and what it takes to make it.
And look at the history of companies. Silicon Valley is built on aggressive, leading-edge companies. And part of that aggression is the people that have built these companies aren't afraid to take risks. They're also not afraid to do what they have to do to stay alive. You look at all the companies that years ago competed with IBM. The world used to say, hey, you can't ever make a bad decision if you buy a product from IBM. So these companies had a tough time. They knew they were going against a giant. The other side of it is IBM worried about people, IBM worried about image and things like that. And not just IBM, but any of the big older companies worry about those things. Whereas Silicon Valley companies, successful ones, sure, they worried about it, but they also made those hard decisions and they made them quickly. You know, they didn't sit around and spend 6 months deciding if they were going to have a layoff. They might have spent 6 days. But you got to be flexible and nimble. Got to adjust.
Yeah, I would say, Dan, that tolerance for risk is universal too. The VCs, what's the mentality they have? High risk, high reward. For founders, they're going out on a limb, bootstrapping a company. But it's an understanding that with that risk, I think the number is something like 7 out of 10 in the Silicon Valley don't thrive, right? They combine and they close. So it's a natural part of this entire ecosystem in which we dwell, right? There's a risk tolerance and one understanding of not everybody's going to make it. And just ideally, Ravix helps them navigate the turmoil that may come at times a little better than they could do on their own, based on the experience that the three of us have, just helping them ideally survive, but if not, at least close in a very responsible fashion and addressing everybody as well as the circumstances allow. And I'd like to think that's what we add.
The thing I wanted to add as well, you hit it, Mike, is your business plan's changing from spending money and acquiring customers and a growth curve to you're off plan and you have to rethink your path forward, which means it may be very uncomfortable with the cost cutting. That's what's going to keep you alive. You're deviating from your original business. The sooner you recognize that, the easier these changes are going to be to make so you can survive. It's hard to get in that survival mode when you have plenty of cash and you're high. Success isn't based on profitability. It's based on using the cash and expanding the business.
Download the Ravix Survival Guide today and receive a complimentary consult with one of our financial experts.